Imagine you run a startup.
Right.
You are just grinding away, working these brutal 80-hour weeks.
Oh, yeah. The classic founder lifestyle.
Exactly. And at the end of the quarter, you pull up your income statement, and there it is, $1 million in profit.
Which feels amazing.
You ecstatic. I mean, you call your co-founder, you pop a bottle of cheap champagne, you basically feel like a total genius.
Right.
But then tomorrow morning, you are going to be forced to declare bankruptcy and fire everyone.
Just like that.
Your company is dead. And you're sitting there wondering why. Well, it's because you are about to learn the absolute deadliest secret in business. And that is, profit is a social construct, but cash is real.
It's honestly the ultimate blind spot for so many people. I mean, you can have a perfect, wildly profitable financial blueprint on paper and still die a sudden, really painful death from a cash shortage the very next afternoon.
It's terrifying.
It happens every single day.
So, welcome to the deep dive. Our mission today is entirely for you. Whether you're a struggling startup founder, maybe an aspiring entrepreneur, or honestly, anyone just trying to decode the actual financial matrix of how a business survives.
That it is a matrix.
It really is. And our source material today is wild. It's this densely packed, high-speed breakdown of an entire 2-year MBA curriculum.
Yes, essentially crammed into a single masterclass video.
Right. It covers everything. Marketing, accounting, quantitative analysis, finance, all the pristine academic theories.
But, we aren't here to just give you a textbook summary. We are here to translate those academic frameworks into actual real-world survival tools.
Because there's a huge gap there, right?
Massive.
Yeah.
The gap between a perfectly balanced Excel model and the sheer panic of a Tuesday afternoon when payroll is due. That gap is exactly where startups go to die.
Wow. Okay, so I want to start right at the foundational premise of all of this, because this curriculum describes a business in the most clinical, almost alien way I have ever heard.
It really strips it down.
It does. It basically says that a business is a value-creating rectangle collecting machine.
A rectangle collecting machine.
Yeah. You move atoms around, you exchange objects across space and time, and in return, you beg people to hand over colorful rectangles, which is, money.
It's so blunt, but I love it because it strips away all that corporate jargon we get bogged down in.
Right.
When you distill it down, you are just trying to convince another human being to hand over their resources to you.
Right.
If they say yes, you live to fight another day. And if they say no, you try yelling, manipulating, praying, pivoting until you get a yes or you just go broke.
Which introduces the first brutal reality of running a business, I think, the absolute illusion of control.
Oh, man. Yeah.
Because once those colorful rectangles start flowing in, they immediately flow right back out.
Immediately.
They go to employees, suppliers, landlords, lenders, taxes, and of course that one sauce subscription you swore you canceled 3 months ago.
We all have that one subscription. But that reality introduces the fundamental trade-offs. There is just never enough of anything.
Never enough time.
Never enough time, never enough cash, never enough attention. Every single decision you make is this strategic juggling act with severe consequences attached to it.
Like, do you buy more inventory so you don't run out of stock? Or do you fix the delivery truck that's currently held together by duct tape and hope?
Exactly. Managing a business is basically strategic juggling, where all the balls are actively on fire.
So how does traditional business education teach you to deal with the fire? Because day one of the MBA playbook, it always starts with marketing.
Always. And the curriculum treats marketing as this strange hybrid. It's like 1 part psychology, 1 part economics, and 1 part sheer manipulation.
The manipulation part is wild. So the overarching process they teach consists of 7 steps you supposedly cannot skip.
Right. Consumer analysis, market analysis, competitive analysis, channels, the marketing mix, economics evaluation, and revision.
It's presented as this rigid, foolproof formula. But let's just pause right at step 1, because this is where the psychology feels incredibly invasive to me. Consumer analysis.
Yeah, they call this the most of the pseudoscientific marketing arts.
Which is such a funny phrase. This is where you essentially stare into a potential customer's soul and trying to figure out what emotional hole you can shovel your product into.
Exactly. They create an archetype for the target consumer. Let's just call him Average Joe.
Okay, Joe.
And the way they describe Joe is brilliant. Joe is a bald little puzzle box full of needs, feelings, desires, irrational impulses, and money.
A bald little puzzle box. But I mean, it's hilarious, but it's also so true. Because Joe doesn't wake up in the morning thinking, I really want to buy a mid-tier project management software today.
No one has ever thought that.
Right. He wakes up wanting to feel organized. Or wanting his boss to stop yelling at him. Or just wanting to go home at 5 p.m. instead of 8 p.m.
And the curriculum actually asks this completely out of nowhere question at this point. Have you ever done DMT?
Which caught me so off guard. Like, what?
Right. They use that psychedelic reference to explain that every product ultimately sits inside some giant existential bucket of human longing. To sell something, you have to identify Joe's need category. In business speak, that means figuring out what weird mess Joe is into these days and asking if that mess can become your business model.
Right, because needs can be functional, like I need water so I don't die. Emotional, I need a luxury watch so I feel successful. Or my absolute favorite example from the curriculum.
Oh, the blender.
Yes, the weird urge to buy a blender that connects to Wi-Fi for absolutely no discernible reason.
Just to feel like you're living in the future.
Exactly. But here's where we need to introduce a critical distinction that I think completely derails most startups.
Oh, this is so important.
It's the difference between who buys the product and who uses the product.
Yes, because they are rarely the exact same person and their motivations are entirely different.
Walk me through that. How does the buyer and the user disconnect work?
Okay, think about a toddler eating glue.
Okay, weird visual, but I'm with you.
Right, the toddler is the user of the glue. They're smearing it, tasting it, just making a massive mess.
Yeah.
But the toddler has no colorful rectangles. The toddler is completely broke.
Right.
The buyer is the exhausted parent walking down the aisle at the craft store. If the glue company markets the product based on how delicious it tastes to the toddler, the parent is going to run away screaming.
That's a PR nightmare.
Exactly. The marketing has to target the parent's need, which is, this glue is non-toxic and it washes out of clothes.
Oh, wow. That explains at least half of all terrible birthday gifts I've ever received. The buyer thought it was a great idea, but the user despises it.
Exactly.
Or think about enterprise software.
Oh, that's the perfect example.
Right. The buyer is some executive in the C-suite who wants a dashboard that looks like a spaceship. They're the one writing the check.
Yeah.
But the user is the mid-level employee who is going absolutely apeshit on their desktop computer because the spaceship dashboard takes 10 minutes to load a single spreadsheet.
Exactly. And the brutal truth for a startup founder is that if you aim your advertising at the wrong one, if you optimize your software for the angry employee, but neglect the spaceship dashboard that makes the executive feel powerful,
you don't get the check.
You won't get the check. Your product dies.
So marketing is basically slicing humanity into these factions and exploiting these existential emotional holes. I have to say, it sounds incredibly clinical, almost predatory even.
It is entirely by design. Because once you find the right buyer, you have to drag them through the buying process, which is this 5-step emotional roller coaster.
Right. Let's break down the mechanics of that funnel, because honestly, it happens to all of us every single day.
It does. It starts with awareness, then search, evaluation, purchase, and post-purchase feeling.
So awareness, you see an ad for a weird gadget on Instagram. Then search, you open a new tab and Google it to make sure it's not a scam.
Right.
Evaluation. You suddenly find yourself reading a massive Reddit thread comparing this gadget to 3 other gadgets you didn't even know existed an hour ago.
You're in deep at that point.
Then purchase. You get exhausted by all the research and just hit buy now.
And then the critical 5th step. Post-purchase feeling. Or as we usually call it, buyer's remorse.
You know what this entire 5-step funnel sounds exactly like?
What?
Modern online dating.
Oh, that's interesting. How so?
Well, think about the mechanics of it. Awareness, you download the app, you're swiping, you see a profile.
Okay.
Search, you immediately try to find their Instagram to see if they own a dog or if they're, like, secretly married.
Fair point.
Evaluation, you are suddenly texting 3 different people who all ostensibly like hiking but require very different levels of emotional investment.
Oh, wow.
Purchase, you finally agree to go on a date and commit a Friday evening to one of them, and then post-purchase feeling. You wake up Saturday morning staring at the ceiling wondering why you just did that.
That is a scarily accurate mapping of the human condition.
Right.
And the intensity of that dating process or that buying process depends entirely on the level of risk. In marketing, they call this involvement.
Involvement, okay.
Yeah. If you are buying a car or signing a mortgage or choosing a life partner, that is a high involvement decision. You will spend weeks researching until you could write a 40-page thesis on the topic.
Because the risk of getting it wrong is massive. You're trapped.
Exactly. But if you're buying a pack of gum at the gas station, Low involvement, who cares?
Right. If it tastes like chalk, you just spit it out.
Exactly. And the curriculum makes a fascinating point here. Marketers absolutely love low-involvement purchases. You can practically trip over your own shoelaces and still make money selling gum.
But marketers aren't satisfied with that, are they?
Never. A marketer's dream is to take a low-involvement commodity and manipulate the psychology until it becomes a high-involvement lifestyle statement.
Like turning plain drinking water into an artisanal, glacier-kissed hydration experience.
Precisely. And why do they do that? Because of the financial mechanics behind it. The more emotional identity you attach to a product, the higher the margin you can charge.
Makes sense.
People won't pay $5 for a plastic bottle of tap water, but they will pay $5 for glacier-kissed hydration that signals to everyone at the gym that they care about wellness.
But wait, let's look at this through the lens of a struggling founder.
Okay.
The founder might look at the marketing team spinning up this glacier-kissed narrative and say, look, I don't have the budget to create an artisanal lifestyle brand. I just have clean water in a bottle, and I need to make rent by next Tuesday.
And that tension is exactly where the academic marketing theory crashes into the realities of a startup.
Yeah.
You can chop your audience into perfect segments. You can identify the exact psychographic profile of the hipster who wants your water. But the segment has to pass the ultimate MBA reality check.
Which is?
Is the segment substantial enough to keep the lights on? Is it accessible? Can you actually afford to reach them?
Right. If your target market is a highly specific faction of, like, left-handed guitar players in Vermont, that's measurable.
Sure.
But is it profitable? The curriculum calls this a makeable but not marketable idea. You made a cool thing, but mathematically, we cannot extract enough rectangles from this group to survive. You can manipulate psychology all day to create a brand, but your strategy has to survive the brutal math of the battlefield.
Which is the perfect transition to the next phase, market analysis and margins. Step 2 in the MBA playbook is defining your relevant market.
Okay.
And the core lesson here is really blunt. Start pretending everyone on earth wants your product.
Oh, founders always do this. They pitch their startup and say, well, the total addressable market is 8 billion people because everyone needs to breathe.
And it's just not true. If everyone is your target audience, then absolutely no one is.
Right.
If you are selling a luxury toothpaste, you are not competing with the dollar store toothpaste. You exist in completely different universes. The relevant market shrinks incredibly fast when you start applying filters.
You have to know what battlefield you are actually standing on. Which brings us to step 3, competitive analysis. Finding out who else is on that battlefield holding a sword.
To figure out how to survive the battlefield, the curriculum introduces something called perceptual mapping. They literally call it astrology for products.
I love that so much. Astrology for products, how does it actually work?
So you draw a simple grid, 2 axes. Usually it's price on one axis and quality on the other.
Oh, okay.
Or maybe it's sweet versus salty, or boring versus exciting. You plot all your competitors on this grid, and you look at where they are clustered.
Let me guess, you're looking for the empty space on the map.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If everyone is selling high-price, high-quality artisanal coffee, and a few are selling low-price, low-quality gas station coffee,
Yeah.
maybe there's a massive empty space for medium-price, high-convenience coffee.
That makes sense.
But here's the danger. If you find a massive empty space on the map, you have to ask yourself a terrifying question. Did I just discover a brilliant untapped market? Or am I staring at an abandoned wasteland where 20 other startups have already gone to die?
Because maybe nobody actually wants high convenience coffee. You literally won't know until you launch. So, assuming we found a good spot on the map, we have to actually build the business. This brings us to the famous 4 Ps of the marketing mix.
Product, place, promotion, and price.
Right. These are the 4 dials a founder twists until the customer finally breaks down and buys the thing.
Let's start with product, because a product is more than just the physical atoms.
Okay.
It's the packaging, the reliability, and most importantly, the brand equity. Brand equity is the imaginary financial value your brand adds to a pile of raw materials.
Right. If I take a plain white t-shirt, it's worth maybe $5. If I stamp a massive Supreme logo on it, it's suddenly worth $100.
Yes.
The physical atoms didn't change at all. Only the equity changed. But there is a massive risk here, right? The curriculum warns against brand dilution.
Oh, absolutely. If Gucci suddenly started selling Gucci-branded dish soap at the grocery store, it would destroy the brand. The luxury illusion would just shatter.
Okay, so the second P is place, or distribution. How does the product physically get to the bald little puzzle box named Joe?
And this is where we encounter one of the most dangerous concepts for a physical product startup, the conga line of margins.
Okay, let's slow down and really do the math on this, because this conga line is where so many founders accidentally bleed to death. Walk me through a physical product moving through the chain.
All right, let's say you invent a revolutionary new kitchen gadget, a super spatula.
A super spatula, I like it.
It costs you $5 to manufacture in your garage. You want to sell it for $10 and make a 50% profit? Sounds reasonable, right?
It's like a really solid business.
Except you can't just teleport the spatula into Joe's kitchen. You have to sell it to a wholesaler.
Right.
And the wholesaler requires a margin just to handle the boxes. So they buy it from you, and then they sell it to a massive retail chain, like, say, Target.
Yeah.
Target isn't a charity. They need a massive cut to cover their huge stores and all their employees.
So how does the retail margin formula actually work then?
The standard formula is retail price minus wholesale price divided by retail price. So if Target wants a 50% margin and they buy the spatula from the wholesaler for $10, Target has to price it at $20 on the shelf.
Wait, so the final customer is paying $20, but I only made $5 in profit at the very beginning of the conga line.
Yes. Everyone takes a massive bite out of the sandwich before it reaches the customer. And it gets worse.
How does it get worse?
The curriculum brings up slotting fees.
Slotting fees sound like mob extortion.
It is essentially legal extortion by grocery stores and retailers.
Are you serious?
Yes. They look at your spatula and say, we have limited shelf space. If you want this spatula displayed at eye level where Joe can actually see it, you have to pay us a $50,000 slotting fee up front.
What?
If you don't pay, we will hide your spatula on the bottom shelf behind the mop buckets where it will rot and die.
So I have to pay rent just to exist in the store on top of giving them a massive cut of the sale.
Exactly.
This is why direct-to-consumer businesses exploded on the internet. They wanted to cut the conga line out completely.
Precisely. But direct-to-consumer relies entirely on the third P promotion.
Right.
If you aren't in a store, you have to shout into the digital void. You have to buy ads. And the cost of those ads is measured in CPM cost per mil, or cost per 1,000 impressions.
And this is the reality check. Your ad creative might be a complete masterpiece of psychological manipulation. But if your CPM on Facebook is too high, you are fundamentally setting your rectangles on fire.
Exactly. Which forces us to look at the final P price.
Pricing strategy is arguably the hardest lever to pull, I think.
It is. You can do cost-based pricing where you just tally up your manufacturing costs and add like 20%.
Which is safe, but it leaves a lot of money on the table.
Exactly. Or you can do value-based pricing where you charge based on how much pain you're relieving for the customer. But the real crux of pricing comes down to elasticity.
Ah, elasticity. This is where we figure out if our customers are Karens or addicts.
That is a very vivid way to put it, but mechanically, it's accurate. If a product is highly elastic, it means the customer is hypersensitive to price changes. If you raise the price of your coffee by just 50 cents, an elastic buyer will rage quit your brand, write a terrible review, and walk across the street to your competitor.
They are ruthless. But an inelastic buyer.
An inelastic buyer doesn't care about the price change because they are desperate, addicted, or just fiercely loyal. Think about life-saving medication or a daily nicotine habit or Apple ecosystem users.
That's so true.
You can raise the price 20%, and they will complain, sure, but they will still hand over their rectangles.
So we have twisted all four dials: product, place, promotion, price. This culminates in the final boss of the marketing section, the economics evaluation.
Yes.
This is the moment of truth where your beautiful, psychology-driven strategy gets hit by a cold, unfeeling calculator.
Does this plan actually make money? You have to calculate your break-even point.
Right.
How many spatulas do we have to sell just to cover the cost of the factory, the slotting fees, and the Facebook ads before we make a single dollar of true profit?
And if that break-even number requires you to sell more spatulas than currently exist on planet Earth, you have to revise. You loop back, you tweak the price, you lower the ad spend until the math stops laughing at you.
But here's the terrifying pivot for our founder.
Yeah.
Here is the trap door.
Okay, what is it?
What happens when that calculator, the one you just used to prove your break-even point,
Yeah.
is actually lying to you?
This is the turning point of the deep dive right here, because we are about to enter the ancient, mystical art of accounting.
It really is an art.
The curriculum defines accounting as, quote, the art of telling the financial truth using only lies that are allowed by law.
That might be the most cynical and accurate definition of accounting I've ever heard.
It's incredible, and this is the exact trap that bankrupts startups. The entire accounting universe revolves around a holy trinity of spreadsheets: the balance sheet, the income statement, and the cash flow statement. And the curriculum describes them as three unreliable narrators who just witnessed the exact same car crash from different angles, and they're giving completely different police reports.
That is such a good way to put it. Let's interrogate these narrators one by one. The first is the balance sheet.
I always hear this described as a snapshot.
It is a financial selfie of your business taken at 11:59 p.m. on a random Tuesday.
Okay.
It captures everything frozen in time. And at its core is the fundamental, unbreakable law of accounting. Assets must equal liabilities plus equity.
Break that down into plain English for me.
Okay, what you have, your assets equals what you owe to other people, your liabilities, plus whatever's left over for the founders to claim, your equity.
So assets are the cash in the bank, the spatulas in the warehouse, the office laptops, and like the weird lava lamp in the lobby.
Yep.
Liabilities are the massive loans you took out, the unpaid invoices, and the emotional damage from your vendors screaming at you. And equity is just the scraps left for me.
Correct. And those two sides of the equation absolutely must balance. If they don't match down to the penny, the curriculum explicitly says you are either incompetent, committing federal fraud, or both.
Okay, so narrator 1 just gave us a selfie. Who is narrator 2?
Narrator 2 is the income statement, or the profit and loss statement. This doesn't take a selfie. It tells a story over time.
Usually a month, a quarter, or a year. Right, though.
Exactly. The formula here is simple. Revenue minus expenses equals profit. Or, as the curriculum beautifully translates it, money in minus money out equals feelings.
I love that so much. Revenue is the money customers hand over because your marketing psychology worked. Expenses are the brutal costs of fulfilling those promises.
Right.
You subtract the cost of goods, sold the literal atoms of the spatula to get your gross margin. Then you subtract operating expenses like rent and marketing to get operating income. Subtract taxes, and you finally arrive at net income.
And if the net income is a positive number, the founders celebrate. If it's a net loss, urgent, terrifying board meetings are scheduled.
But wait, if the income statement says I have a positive net income, if it says I made $1 million in profit, why did we start this whole thing by saying the founder's going to go bankrupt tomorrow morning?
Because the income statement is a liar.
Oh.
And this is where narrator 3 kicks open the door, the cash flow statement. The cash flow statement looks at the balance sheet and the income statement and says, show me the actual physical money.
Why does it care?
Because companies do not die from a lack of profitability. They die from a lack of cash.
Right.
The cash flow statement tracks the literal movement of rectangles into and out of your physical bank account. Operating cash from selling things, investing cash from buying equipment, financing cash from taking on debt or selling stock.
But I'm confused. Shouldn't my income statement and my cash flow statement be the exact same thing? I mean, if I sell a spatula for $20, I have $20 in revenue and $20 in cash.
Right.
In a child lemonade stand, yes.
That is called cash accounting. You record the money when you actually touch the coins. But large businesses, the IRS and investors, force startups to use a dark magic called accrual accounting.
Accrual accounting. Okay, explain the mechanics of this, because I know this is the exact mechanism that kills companies.
So accrual accounting forces you to record revenue when it is earned, not when the cash is actually collected.
Okay.
And it forces you to record expenses when they are incurred, not when you actually pay the bill.
Okay, I need a concrete example. Put me in a scenario.
Let's say your startup pivots from spatulas to enterprise software.
All right.
In January, you sign a massive $1 million contract with a huge corporation. You deliver the software on January 15th. You have fulfilled your end of the deal. You have earned the revenue.
So my January income statement shows $1 million in revenue. I'm rich.
Yes, your income statement says you are a paper millionaire.
Mm-hmm.
But large corporations are notorious for brutal payment terms. They negotiated a net 180 payment term, meaning they have 180 days to actually wire you the money.
Wait, so they aren't paying me until July?
Exactly. So January, February, March, April, May, your bank account has $0 from this deal. But your January income statement claimed you made $1 million.
But I still have to pay my software engineers. I have to pay my AWS server bills. Those expenses are incurred right now.
And that is how you die.
Wow.
The income statement is looking at January and telling your investors, congratulations, this company is a massive success. But you log into your Chase bank account to run payroll on Friday, and the balance is zero.
Your employees mutiny. Your servers get shut off.
You are completely, utterly broke.
Okay, this requires an analogy to really lock in the absurdity of this system. Running your startup on accrual accounting is essentially like running a marathon using a faulty GPS watch.
Walk me through the marathon.
Okay, you're running the race. Your GPS watch, which represents the accrual income statement, tracks your momentum. You hit mile 26.2. The watch beeps. It flashes fireworks. It says, congratulations, you have crossed the finish line. You are a champion. Your heart rate app syncs up and declares you a winner.
But where are you physically?
Physically, because the watch calibration was off, you are still 3 miles away from the actual finish line. You have absolutely no water left. Your muscles are cramping. You are currently collapsing on the hot asphalt.
Right.
The accrual system says you won, but the terrain, your actual cash flow, says you are dying of dehydration.
That is the perfect mechanism to understand the trap. You cannot drink a map when you are dying of thirst. You cannot pay your employees with an accrual revenue projection. Cash is real. Profit is a social construct.
That line is just staggering. Profit is a social construct told by accrual accounting. So why do we even use this system if it's basically designed to trick founders into bankruptcy?
Because over a long, multi-year horizon, accrual accounting actually provides a smoother, more accurate picture of a company's underlying business model. Yeah, it matches the cost of making a product with the revenue of selling that product in the same time period. It stops your financial performance from vibrating violently just because a client was 2 days late wiring a check. Investors want to see the underlying engine, not the daily bank hiccups.
But as a founder, I don't care about a multi-year horizon if I can't survive this Friday.
Fair point.
And the accounting illusions don't stop there. The curriculum dives into depreciation and inventory tricks.
Let's talk about LIFO versus FIFO, because this sounds like absolute voodoo. First in, first out versus last in, first out. Why does it matter which specific item I sell?
Okay, let's build another scenario to show the mechanics of how this impacts actual cash. Picture a startup that roasts and sells premium coffee beans.
Okay, I have a warehouse full of beans.
In January, the world is calm. You buy 100 bags of raw green coffee beans for $10 a bag. You stack them in the warehouse.
Got it.
But by June, global supply chains collapse, inflation goes crazy, and coffee prices skyrocket. The next 100 bags you buy cost you $20 a bag. Right, so my cost doubled, but I still have 200 total bags sitting in a giant pile in my warehouse.
Exactly. Now, a customer walks in and buys 1 bag of roasted coffee for $30. You reach into the pile and hand them a bag. Which bag did you grab? The $10 bag from January or the $20 bag from June?
Doesn't matter. They look physically identical.
Physically, no. But legally and financially, your choice changes your entire reality.
Oh.
If your accountant uses FIFO first in, first out, the system assumes you sold the oldest bag, the $10 bag.
Okay, so if I sold it for $30 and my cost was $10, my profit is $20.
Yes, your profit looks massive. Your investors see a $20 profit margin and think you are a genius operator. But here's the catch. Because your paper profit is so high, the IRS swoops in and taxes you on that $20.
Oh, right. The government always gets their cut of the feelings.
But let's rewind. What if your accountant chooses LIFO last in, first out? The system assumes you sold the newest, most expensive bag from June, the $20 bag.
Wait, so revenue is $30, but my cost is $20. My profit is only $10. My margins look terrible on paper.
They look terrible. But think about the mechanism. Because your paper profit was legally cut in half, your tax bill is also legally cut in half. You pay less to the IRS, which means you keep more actual physical cash in your bank account.
This is blowing my mind.
That's wild, right?
The exact same physical transaction happened in the real world. A customer took a bag of coffee. But simply by flipping a switch in my accounting software from FIFO to LIFO, I manipulated my tax burden and preserved my cash flow.
It is entirely strategic. Do you want to look rich and successful to raise venture capital? Use FIFO. Do you want to look poor on paper so you can dodge taxes and survive a cash crunch? Use LIFO.
And what about depreciation? The curriculum mentions this as another illusion.
Depreciation is how you handle massive, expensive assets. If you buy $1 million coffee roasting machine, you don't record a $1 million expense on day one.
That would destroy your income statement for the year.
Exactly. Instead, the government allows you to spread that expense out over the useful life of the machine, say 10 years.
So I deduct $100,000 a year for 10 years.
Exactly. The curriculum translates this beautifully. Instead of crying once, You get to cry a little bit every year.
Wow. Okay, so if profit is a manipulative social construct and my balance sheet is full of lava lamps, how does a founder actually know if their business is breathing today? How do I look past the illusions?
This is where we must use metrics and ratios. The curriculum calls these the infamous comparison tools that take big, confusing numbers and turn them into smaller, highly judgmental numbers.
Judgmental numbers. I feel attacked already. What's the most important one?
If you are worried about survival, you look at liquidity ratios. These ask the most urgent question possible. Can we pay our bills right now? And the king of liquidity is the current ratio.
How does the current ratio work?
You take your current assets, which is cash, or things you can instantly turn into cash, and divide it by your current liabilities, which are bills that are due within the next 12 months.
So if I have $100,000 in cash and $50,000 in bills due, my current ratio is 2.
Yes. And if the number is over 1, congratulations, you are breathing.
But if that number slips under 1,
you are sweating because it mathematically proves you owe more money in the immediate future than you possess. You are on the clock to bankruptcy.
What other ratios judge me?
Leverage ratios, like debt to equity. This asks, how many chainsaws are we juggling? How much of this company is financed by dangerous bank loans versus safe founder equity?
Right.
And efficiency ratios, like inventory turnover. This measures how fast you clear out your warehouse. If your turnover is low, it means your cash is trapped inside dusty spatulas that nobody wants to buy.
Okay, I want to take all of this, the marketing psychology, the margin conga line, the accrual lies, the current ratios, and put it into a high-stakes simulation.
Do it.
I want to see how these theories clash in reality. Set the stage.
Right.
We are in a tense startup board meeting. Our enterprise software company has found a tiny sliver of market fit. As the founder and chief marketing officer, I am obsessed with growth. I just read the marketing playbook.
Right.
But you are playing my chief financial officer. You are the voice of cash flow, liquidity, and doom.
I am ready to ruin your dreams. What's your proposal?
Look, CFO, we need to capture market share aggressively before our competitors wake up. I want to double our digital ad spend across all platforms. Yes, the CPM is skyrocketing, our burn rate is going to double, but I don't care. To drive the conversion, I want to offer a massive 50% discount to all new users for their first year. If you look at my accrual revenue projections, the graph goes up and to the right like a rocket ship. In 12 months, we are going to be paper billionaires. Sign the check.
Okay, CMO, let me step in here and shut this down before you bankrupt us by Friday.
Yep.
First, let's look at the mechanics of your 50% discount. You are slashing our price in half. But let's look at cost accounting.
Right.
We have fixed costs, our office rent, our core salaries. Those don't change. Then we have variable costs, the AWS server space and customer support hours required for every new user.
Sure, variable costs exist, but we'll make it up in volume.
Volume does not save you if the unit economics are fundamentally broken.
Well,
by slashing the price but keeping the variable cost the same, what did you just do? You destroyed our contribution margin.
Hold on, break that down. What is the contribution margin?
Contribution margin is simply the price minus the variable cost. It's the actual money left over from each sale that, quote-unquote, contributes to paying off our fixed rent.
Okay.
If our software costs $100 and the server space costs $20, our contribution margin is $80.
Okay, that sounds healthy.
It was healthy, but you just discounted the price to $50. The server space still costs $20. Your contribution margin just plummeted from $80 down to $30.
But again, I'm bringing in thousands of new users with these ads.
Let's look at the break-even formula. Fixed costs divided by contribution margin. Because you shrank the margin to $30, the denominator in our equation just became tiny.
Okay.
Which means, mathematically, the number of users we need to acquire just to break even just shot into the stratosphere. As the curriculum warns, with margins this thin, you will need to sell to more humans than currently exist on Earth just to stop bleeding cash.
But CFO, you're missing the big picture. Look at the income statement projection. The accrual revenue says we're going to make $5 million this quarter.
The income statement is a map, and you are ignoring the terrain. Those new corporate clients you are signing, they demanded net 90 payment terms. They are not paying us for 3 months. Our accrual revenue looks beautiful, but our cash flow statement is screaming in agony.
Why?
Because the bills for your massive digital ad campaign are due to Facebook and Google today. Look at our liquidity. Look at our current ratio.
Oh, no.
Our current assets are static because the cash is trapped in net 90 receivables.
Yeah.
But our current liabilities to your ad bills just exploded. Our current ratio is slipping under 0.5. So
I'm sweating.
I'm telling you, we are insolvent. If we execute your growth plan, Our paper profits will soar, but we won't have the physical rectangles to run payroll next week. Expanding now, under these conditions, guarantees immediate bankruptcy. We have to cut ad spend and maintain our price integrity to protect the cash.
And scene.
That was intense.
It was. But that simulation highlights exactly why so many hyped-up startups crash into a brick wall. Growth is incredibly dangerous. It consumes cash faster than it generates it. Founders are constantly paralyzed, forced to choose between risky expansion and defensive cost-cutting.
And how do founders usually resolve that paralysis? They turn to the next section of the MBA curriculum, quantitative analysis, or quant.
Quant. The curriculum describes this as the part of business school where math pretends it has psychic powers.
Right. When faced with the terror of an unknown future, founders open spreadsheets. They use forecasting, trying to look at past sales data to predict future sales data. They use regression analysis, looking for relationships between variables.
Like if ad spend goes up, does revenue go up, down, or sideways?
Exactly. And they try to measure how terrifying the ride is going to be using standard deviation and variance.
Break those down for me.
Standard deviation measures the bumpiness of your reality. If your daily sales have a low standard deviation, it means your revenue is highly predictable. $100 yesterday, $102 today, $99 tomorrow. It's a smooth ride in the park.
But a high standard deviation?
High standard deviation means you are on a chaotic roller coaster. $100 yesterday, $5,000 today, $0 for the next 3 weeks. You cannot plan cash flow around high variance without having a massive safety net.
But the ultimate tool they teach for strategic decision-making is the decision tree. It sounds like a magical oracle. How does a decision tree mechanically work to solve our board meeting argument?
It is a visual map of choices and outcomes. Picture a literal tree branching out. The starting node is the decision. Do we launch the risky ad campaign? Or do we cut costs?
Okay.
If we launch, the tree branches into possible outcomes. Branch A, the campaign goes viral, we make $10 million. Branch B, the campaign flops, we lose $2 million.
Okay, but how does the math tell me which path to take?
You assign a probability to each branch. Let's say we guess there's a 60% chance it goes viral and a 40% chance it flops. You multiply the payoff by the probability. $10 million times 60% is an expected value of $6 million.
Got it.
You do this for every branch, fold the tree back up, and whichever initial decision has the highest total expected value mathematically wins.
Okay, stop right there. This is exactly where I have to violently push back on this entire academic framework.
Push back. Where's the flaw?
The flaw is the absolute arrogance of probability theory in a real-world startup.
How so?
Well, the curriculum defines probability as the number of desired outcomes divided by the total number of possible outcomes.
That is the standard mathematical definition, yes.
And it works perfectly in a casino. If I roll a standard 6-sided die, I know with absolute certainty there are exactly 6 total outcomes. The denominator is fixed. The probability of rolling a 3 is exactly 1 in 6.
Right.
But in a messy, chaotic startup operating in a global economy, who on earth actually knows the total number of outcomes?
Nope.
Exactly. A competitor could launch a clone of our software tomorrow. A global pandemic could suddenly shut down supply chains. A new government regulation could ban our entire business model overnight. The denominator, the total possible outcomes in reality, is effectively infinite.
You are hitting on the exact synthesis I want to make here.
Right. So when a founder assigns a clean 60% probability to a branch on their decision tree, they aren't doing science. They are literally just making up numbers to make themselves feel better about taking a blind leap.
That is the absolute danger of relying purely on data-driven forecasting over gut-level business survival instincts. These complex Excel formulas distort actual survival logic.
Because they look so clean.
They lull founders into a profound false sense of security. Because the math looks clean, they assume the reality will be clean.
The curriculum highlights this delusion with something called linear programming. What is that?
Linear programming is the ultimate Excel delusion. It's an algorithm used to optimally allocate severely limited resources: time, labor, machine hours, cash.
How does the curriculum explain it?
Brilliantly. You basically type a bunch of constraints into a computer. You say, I am short on cash, my employees are exhausted, I have no warehouse space. Now, computer, give me maximum profit.
And what happens?
The algorithm churns, and it spits out a mathematically flawless, perfectly optimized plan. You take it to your board of directors, they applaud, and your boss says, look at him. That's my quant.
But let me guess, the optimized plan is a fragile glass cannon.
Completely. Because the computer's optimal solution assumes a frictionless vacuum. It assumes the supply chain will operate with zero delays. It assumes every employee works at 100% efficiency. It assumes customers behave like perfectly rational economic robots.
Which they never do.
Never. The plan is beautiful on a screen, but it shatters into a million pieces the exact second a real-life vendor goes bankrupt or a delivery truck gets a flat tire. It is an illusion of control.
Which perfectly sets the stage for the final pillar of the MBA experience. We have tried to predict the chaotic future with quant. Now we enter corporate finance, where we try to place a definitive monetary value on that uncertain future.
Finance. This is where the curriculum gets highly theoretical.
I call it finance, time travel, and the vibe economy. Let's start with time travel. The core mechanism of all finance is the time value of money. The golden rule is that money today is intrinsically worth more than the exact same amount of money tomorrow.
Let's explain why that is. If I offer you $100 right now, or $100 exactly 1 year from now, you will obviously take it today. Why? 2 reasons: earning potential and risk.
Walk me through earning potential.
If you take the $100 today, you can invest it, you can put it in a savings account, or buy a stock and earn 5% interest. So in 1 year, you will actually have $105. Therefore, $100 today is better than $100 tomorrow.
And the risk?
Inflation. As the curriculum notes, future money has mysteriously disappearing purchasing power. A year from now, that $100 might only buy $90 worth of groceries. Plus, there's the risk I might go bankrupt and never pay you at all.
So because of this time travel dynamic, finance professionals use a mechanism called discounting.
Yes. Discounting is the mathematical magic trick of shrinking imaginary future cash down into its equivalent value today.
How does the math actually work intuitively?
If you want to know what $100 next year is worth to you today, you divide it by your discount rate. If you demand a 10% return on your money to make it worth your while, you discount that future $100 by 10%. So its present value is roughly $90.90.
And this leads us to the absolute holy grail of corporate finance decision-making, NPV, net present value. How does a startup use NPV to decide if an investment is brilliant or doomed?
Let's say you want to spend $50,000 today to build a new software feature. You project that this feature will generate $20,000 a year for the next 3 years. That's $60,000 total.
Sounds profitable. $60,000 is bigger than $50,000.
But that $60,000 is in the future. You have to use discounting to shrink all those future $20,000 chunks down to their present value today. Once you shrink them, maybe they're only worth $52,000 in today's money. Now for the final step. You take that $52,000 of discounted future value, and you subtract your initial $50,000 investment. The result is a positive $2,000. That is your net present value.
Oh, I see.
If the NPV is positive, the project creates value. You do it. If the NPV is negative, the curriculum says you run for the hills.
But wait, the entire calculation relies on the discount rate, the hurdle you have to jump over. The curriculum calls this WACC, weighted average cost of capital. They admit the formula looks hell intimidating, but what is the actual mechanism of WACC?
Think of WACC as the ultimate hurdle rate. A company gets its money from 2 places: debt like bank loans and equity selling shares to investors.
Right.
Both of those sources demand a return. The bank wants 7% interest. The equity investors want a 15% return because they're taking a bigger risk.
Oh.
WACC blends those 2 costs together based on how much of each you use.
So if my blended WACC is 10%, that means every single dollar inside my company costs me 10% just to maintain.
Exactly. So if you invest in a project that only returns 8%, you are actively destroying the company's value, even if it looks profitable on the surface. You tripped over the hurdle. A lower WACC makes it easier to justify investments. A high WACC means good luck doing anything.
We also have to talk about risk measurement in finance, beta. I know this is a metric that tracks how much a stock wiggles compared to the overall market.
Yes, beta measures volatility. If the overall stock market is a giant cruise ship moving across the ocean, beta measures the passengers on the ship.
Let's build that metaphor. If a stock has a beta of exactly 1.
A beta of 1 means the passenger is sitting calmly in a deck chair. If the ship tilts 5 degrees to the left, the passenger tilts 5 degrees to the left. They move perfectly in sync with the market.
What if a stock has a beta greater than 1, like a 2?
That passenger is a drama queen. If the ship tilts 5 degrees, this passenger throws themselves 10 degrees across the deck. When the market is up, these stocks explode with massive gains. When the market goes down, they crash terrifyingly hard. High risk, high reward. Tech startups usually have high betas.
And a beta less than 1.
Stable, boring, low returns. Utility companies. The ship tilts, but the passenger barely moves.
Okay, so we have laid out this incredibly rigorous, mathematically dense framework. discounting, NPV, WACC, beta. The curriculum suggests that valuing a company is a strict, rational science governed by the physical laws of discounted future cash flows.
That is the academic theory, yeah.
But then the source material hits us with a reality check that shatters the entire framework. It brings up the vibe economy.
The ultimate clash between theory and reality.
Yes. The text explicitly points out that modern tech companies, the example it uses is OpenAI, are currently being valued at nearly $1 trillion. And it asks a devastating question. Is that $1 trillion valuation based on a careful, rigorous calculation of discounted future cash flows and a blended WACC?
Absolutely not.
No. The text explicitly states that these valuations are based entirely on vibes, guessing, hoping, and hyping until everyone believes it.
It is the ultimate paradox of modern business.
Make that make sense for the founder listening. You are telling them they have to balance these rigid, life-or-death academic models of cash flow and contribution margins while operating in a macro market that is driven entirely by irrational momentum, collective hallucination, and hype.
How do you survive that paradox?
Yeah.
You have to respect the academic models at the micro level, because gravity still applies to your bank account.
Right.
Cash flow dictates your daily survival. If your current ratio drops below 1, you die, period. No amount of hype will pay your AWS bill if the account is empty. But at the macro level, you have to acknowledge that valuations are a psychological game.
It's time to bring this massive, chaotic journey home. Let's recap the terrain we've covered today.
We started by slicing up humanity in marketing, steering into Joe's existential DMT bucket, and realizing the buyer is rarely the user.
We navigated the brutal conga line of margins on the battlefield, proving that by the time wholesalers and slotting fees take their cut, your 50% margin has vanished.
We exposed the manipulative lies of accrual accounting. We ran the marathon with a broken GPS, proving that profit is a map, but cash flow is the terrain.
We simulated a tense board meeting showing exactly how aggressively discounting your price destroys your contribution margin, sends your break-even point into the stratosphere, and bankrupts you through net 90 payment terms.
And finally, we dismantled the Excel delusions of quantitative forecasting, arriving at a financial world where the rigorous math of time travel collides head-on with trillion-dollar vibes.
The ultimate strategic lesson for the struggling startup founder is this. Use the MBA toolkit to understand the vocabulary of business, but do not blindly worship it. A perfectly optimized linear programming model cannot save you from a cash flow crisis. Manage your liquidity, defend your margins, and remember that hypergrowth is often the fastest path to insolvency.
Well said.
Which brings me back to the profound contradiction that sparked this whole deep dive. The curriculum hammered home the unyielding physical law of business. Profit is a social construct, but cash is real. Companies die strictly from running out of physical rectangles. Yet it ended by pointing out that massive entities are currently valued in the trillions based entirely on collective vibes.
Yeah.
So here is the final thought I want to leave you with, something to mull over as you stare at your own startup's fragile spreadsheets late tonight. If the ultimate unbreakable law of business physics is that a company will die from a cash shortage, are we entering a new era where the sheer gravitational force of collective vibes and investor hype can indefinitely override those fundamental laws of cash flow? Are the financial physics actually broken, or is the market just suspended in midair like a cartoon character who has run off a cliff, waiting for a massive, inevitable reality check to pull it crashing back down to earth?